How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So on this video, we're just going to be going over a 3-year 32,000 mile review of my Acura Tlx Type S. This is a 2021, probably one of the first ones out there, but we're just going to be talking about some of the good, some of the bad, some of the common issues that there have been over the last couple of years with these vehicles, reliability, maintenance, stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and get started. So also include some of my modifications. Now my brake rotors and pads, they were pretty bad from the get. So that is a very common issue with these cars. So right around 7,000 miles, I had heavy vibrations from the brakes, specifically in the steering wheel. So I went ahead and contacted RB Performance, RB Brakes, and they had some brakes made from I think they used a heel toe car out over there on that side of the country for the measurement, stuff like that. I got sent a set for me. I paid for them and I installed them, and it's been about 25,000 miles or so, and they've been absolutely awesome. So I recently just changed the pads to a different brand. I am testing those. Not that there was anything wrong with the other brakes. I just got asked to test these, so make sure you stay tuned for an update on those pads. And again, there was nothing wrong with the RB street pads. These are also street pads. So once again, I have an update on those in a while. I do have some Ray's gram lights, FXC 57, I think they are called, and these are considerably lighter than the OEM stuff. I did have the Y Sports, but you know, these are still a lot lighter than those Y Sports. So nothing wrong with the wheels. I just wanted a slightly different look, and these are 19, so I wanted something a little bit smaller. I do not like the 20s. If you do get 20s, then obviously there will be less of a wheel gap. I am lowered on Swift springs, so again, ride really good. They ride basically like stock. All the adaptive stuff from the suspension is still there, which is great. A lot of people opt to keep the OEM 20s with some wheel spacers, and then you get a very flush look as well, almost like this. So either way is fine. I've installed all 3 different sets of springs out there, and all 3 of them are very comparable, with the iBox, I believe, being slightly lower, but not much. So that is that. Obviously, we know some of the issues, or the puddle lights, they basically fell on all of them. Now, I did upgrade mine to the 2023 and up pilots. They are a bright white or daylight white versus that dull warm white. Now, my original set failed basically out of the dealer. I got home, one of them was flashing immediately, the other one failed like the next day. These lasted me just about 10 months. So, and the ones I've been installing lately, I do a couple little modifications to those, and they've been seeming to, you know, holding off a lot better than the OEM ones. Again, the biggest difference is that there is a color change. So if you do go ahead and install those, just be aware that they can still fail. And I also added some sequential lights. Now we have a little bit of lint here, a towel, but don't worry about that. Let's just see. So those are still working perfectly fine on both sides, and they come both in a smoked finish and then just a clear glass. I like the smoke finish better, just looks a little bit more subtle, and it's just a nice little touch. Again, nothing wrong with those. I just wanted to go ahead and you know, replace them while I was in there. So I did not get the car PPF'd, which I definitely regret, but my plan is probably around this year, maybe around the holidays, get it wrapped. If not, maybe next spring. Maybe I'll just go through the winter like this, get it nice and detailed and then wrapped. And speaking of detailing, I do need one. I have one scheduled for in a couple of days over the weekend. So by the time you see this video, it'll already be detailed and whatnot. But this is what you can expect if you do drive your car on a daily basis like I do. It's going to get dirty, especially if you live somewhere where it snows and stuff like that, and it does rain a lot. So I do a ton of maintenance to my car. I've recently replaced the transmission fluid for the 2nd time, and I replaced also the transmission filter, which is located way deep down in there. It is a pretty big task to do, especially if you're going to do it on your own. Make sure you do watch that video. I have a folder full of Tlx Type S specific videos, so if you have one of these cars, make sure you do check it out with all the maintenance, all the modifications, everything that you will need to get the car modified, maintained correctly, all that stuff, etc. etc. So I am back on the OEM downpipe. I'm doing some testing. It's taking me a little bit longer than I expected, but you know, some of this stuff does take time. So perfect weather, perfect scenario, perfect day. I could pretty confidently say that it'll be just as fast on the OEM catalytic converter that it is on the aftermarket downpipe, depending on what Ktuner version you are using. So again, I think the cat works just fine in most applications. Obviously, if you want a better sounding exhaust system, the downpipe is a must-have in my opinion, without spending a fortune on an exhaust system. But either way, it's fine. So you may notice that my strut mount is also missing. I'm working on making one for myself, and then maybe mass producing it. We'll see how that goes. If it goes according to plan, it comes out nice how I expect it to, then we'll see again if I make a couple of them and then maybe sell them. We'll see what happens. But I do have it out, so it does hold up the cowl, so that's something that I had to keep in mind. Not that the cowl will get damaged, but obviously it does hold it up, and I wanted to continue to be held up at least in one spot right there across the middle. So make sure you guys are topping off your coolant. We don't want these cars overheating or anything like that, or damaging the head gasket. So every oil change, if you're a mechanic, if you're doing it, your friend's doing it, whatever the case may be, just top off your coolant. You do have to push these pins in here, pop off this cover, and then you'll see the cap. If you open it while it's hot, just make sure you use a rag. You don't want to get burnt or anything like that. OEM bypass valve, there's no need for an aftermarket one. That one works just fine. I do have the PRL charge piping, that's been fine. I've had no pop-offs or anything like that. I do also have a front mount, which is a must-have modification whether you plan on increasing power levels or not. I'm on a stage 1.0 Ktuner right now, and regardless, the OEM intercooler is way too small for this car, and it heat soaks eventually, especially in hot summer days. So just something to keep in mind. If you're going to do one modification, when your air filter is done, needs to get replaced, do a PRL drop-in or K&N, and then definitely a PRL front mount intercooler. That is a must-have in my opinion. So speaking of tunes, there is someone working on a 23 Type S tune. So Ktuner does not support it, and they've been successful. So there's a couple of test cars, I believe. He's also working on a MDX Type S Flash as well. And once that is all said and done, it's possible that they will continue with a stage 2 and maybe even some custom tuning. So we'll see how that works. You can look him up on Instagram. I believe his name is just Lambda. I'll make sure I add it in the description section down below, and then we will see how it goes. I may or may not do some testing with them. So again, we'll see how that goes. But obviously my quest for the cars is to make it as light as possible with as much functionality as possible, and run like an 1150 at about 116 to 118 or so. I think that'll be an amazing daily driver car that's still plenty reliable. We know the competition is still way ahead of this car at this time, and there could be some limitations to this vehicle, not including the weight. Obviously, we know that is a huge drawback and setback of this car. So everything I do to this vehicle is very weight minded. So everything I change, I try to either keep the same weight or drop it a little bit, little here and there, to just everything kind of adds up without, again, ruining any functionality. So we'll see how that does go. So let's talk about some of the issues that have been happening with these cars. So obviously we talked about the puddle lights, we talked about the brakes being very weak in the front, and they just causing some vibrations while braking. So there has been a significant amount of failed transmissions, not specifically the transmission, but the transfer case, which essentially wipes out the transmission. So where the two of them join, so it goes from a shaft into another shaft, and that ultimately ends up stripping and damaging both sides. So again, not the transmission itself fails, but the fact that the gears and the splines are stripped from going into the shaft, now everything is scrapped. So There's been probably a good 8 to 10 of these cases, so definitely something to keep in mind. Most of them were modified, some of them were completely stock. So again, just something to keep in mind. I've had probably over 100 launches on my car and I've been fine. It does not mean that I can't go launch it today and break it. So again, just something to keep in mind. And hopefully if power levels keep increasing, we will get some type of support for these transmissions. Somebody will, you know, wake up and smell the coffee and kind of give some support. But at the power levels we are at right now, it's not drawing anybody's attention, so I can't even be mad at anybody for that. So I've also seen a cracked front cylinder head, so it just looked like poor casting. I think that was just like a one-off thing, so just somebody did relay that to me. So nothing that I think we need to worry about. I think the engine is very you know, strong, and I don't think we have to worry about that. I think the weak point's really going to be that transmission transfer case section, possibly some trans issues later down the road, but I think that will be at a much higher power levels. We see the 1080 and the Accords, they start running into some issues right around the 500 wheel horsepower, 500 torque mark, 450 torque. So I think we could probably see maybe some of those issues on this as well. But again, I think the engine will be plenty fine for those power levels at this point. And we've seen a lot of failed ball joints. A couple people had me up, they show me videos of noises, and immediately it sounds like a dry ball joint, and sure enough they go to the dealer and the ball joints need to get replaced. So it's nice that it's covered on a warranty, but if this continues to be an issue, maybe Acura will put out a bulletin, maybe not. Maybe this is something that we'll have to pay out of pocket in the longer term. So again, something to keep our eyes on. If you have anything that's happened to you and I haven't mentioned, make sure you do drop a comment down below. And if there's any sort of pattern, I'll make sure to mention it in next year's video, so the 4th year of ownership video. But best thing I like about this car is the usable power. What I mean about usable power is everyday low end torque. It's awesome. It picks up really well. Obviously it starts to die off on the highway again, but how many times are you actually going above 80, 90, 100 miles an hour? I don't do that on a consistent basis. Now I hop onto the freeway on a daily basis, so that's nice for me. And again, the usable power is great. All-wheel drive is great. You never had to battle tractions, not at these power levels at least, which is great. So other than that, the car is holding up fine. I did have a small issue with my windshield cracking. Now obviously there is a impact mark right over here. I couldn't pinpoint it. I didn't hear anything hit my windshield, so I think it might have been when it was parked and something hit it somewhere. And as you can see, I noticed it first thing in the morning, and it was about 8 inches or so, and then it's now almost all the way to the end. Now I did order a windshield. I'm going away on vacation. When I get back, I'm gonna have it detailed. Before that, I'm gonna have the windshield, everything's kind of gonna come in together and get the car back to as perfect as possible. That's not really the car's fault. It's just something that we had to deal with. No matter what car it was, probably the same thing would have happened. Rest of the car is looking pretty good still. No major defects or anything like that. No major impacts. The carbon fiber on the OEM wing is holding up perfectly fine, so I am happy about that. The weaves are really nice. So there is other options at this point, but I really like the the matte finish look. It is expensive, but again, there is other options if you are interested. I do have the OEM exhaust still. I'm not going to change that unless if it was to drop considerable weight at a reasonable price, which doesn't seem to be the case. I still have the RB rear rotors with the pads, so those are okay. I'm not sure if the person who sent me those is going to be making a set for the back, but we will see. RB does offer a street and a race compound. Obviously most of us are going to be using the street version. I don't intend on road coursing this thing at all. I'm into drag racing, so that's my thing. I know it's not really the right car, but it is the perfect car for me. I can take my kids in it. I can use the power when I want it and everything like that. So I do have both car seats back here, and my kids are 4 and 6 currently. That is not my seated position. The seat does go up a couple inches when I get in the car, but there's still plenty of space for now. As they grow a little bit older, Obviously it could get a little bit tight, but for now we are good. Eventually we'll probably drop in the back of this one soon, and that one we'll keep in there for a little bit longer, maybe swap that seat over. I don't know, but for me it works. Everyone in my family is on the shorter side. If you're anything above 6 foot, you'll probably have some trouble, especially if you have kiddos in the back. So the seats are holding up really nice, both sides. I do use a plastic cover on that seat every day I go to work. On days like today where I'm off, I take it off and enjoy the seats, but it is holding up well. We'll get a little bit closer look on the other side. Everything else on the interior is holding up really nice. To be fair, most times I'm in a car by myself, so not really an issue with other people, you know, damaging it or anything like that. But you know, everyone has a little bit of different scenario. And we'll take a closer look to the seat here. We have some wrinkles here, no big deal here. You know, it's gonna get worn out. If you use it, it's gonna get worn out. If you don't want to get worn out, then you can't use the vehicle. We'll go ahead and start it. Nice and quiet right now. OEM downpipe. I will be going back to my downpipe at some point. I did get a ceramic coated, which is one thing I did want to do from the get, but I never got the chance. So we'll be doing that probably in the fall months once I'm done with the testing of this one. So as you can see, 32,000 miles. Car's in impeccable shape in my opinion, without considering the windshield and it just being overall a little bit dirty. But everything is holding up really nice here. The seats are holding up. Dash, Acura has a history of the dashboards cracking, so hopefully that's not a thing that happens to this one. And the armrest, this one is pretty much brand new. I don't use it. These do bubble up a lot, so just something to keep in mind. And now they do have some aftermarket carbon fiber options. I don't like it. I like simple touches. And actually I was thinking about doing some carbon trim, matte carbon, just around these silver parts. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe something I'll do over the winter time. I like little touches here and there. I don't like everything. This is also nice. This is a visor for the Ktuner, and I thought it was kind of silly at first, but it really works. It keeps the sun away from the screen, and it works really nice. Also got the same attachment. I'll add the link to this stuff in the comment section down below as well. But overall, guys, it's been awesome. I love the car. I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I know, again, the competition is faster, but I like the reliability of it. I like everything that's been good. I like that I have all the tools to work on it. I don't have to go out and buy anything else. Maintenance on these cars is fairly affordable. The trans filter, once again, was a lot of work, so definitely expect to pay some good money to get that swap. I do my fluids for the drivetrain every 15,000 miles. The filter is going to be done every 30,000 miles. Time belt's going to be done every 7 years or 100,000 miles. That is a major job, so expect to pay good money for that. That's going to be the most expensive cost on this vehicle. I'm probably going to be changing my spark plugs over the winter, kind of just to see where they're at, take a good look at them, make sure I'm not missing anything. It's going to be a little bit early, but I like to do everything early. I also get to make content for you guys. Some people do have a lot more mileage than me. Some have a lot less mileage. There's somebody, I believe, they're knocking on the time belt time frame. So the car's only 3 years old, but they're right around 90 or 100,000 miles already last time I spoke to them. So again, that time belt is an extensive job. You do need special tools for it. I do have the tools, but again, not everyone's going to be able to do it. And I would 100% take it to the dealer. Do not take it to a mom and pop shop that's not going to have the right tools to do it. It'll be a headache for you. It'll be a headache for them. So pay the money. That's one thing you want to have done correctly. So I think that pretty much wraps up everything, guys. If you have any suggestions, anything I didn't mention, please drop a comment down below. Like this, anybody looking to get into this car will be well informed. And once I have the updated video on the downpipe versus the OEM cat, I'm going to make sure and make that video to kind of compare and contrast and see what option is better for everyone. So with that being said, I'll catch everyone on the next one.